Good morning, everybody. I'm the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American, and welcome to another art stream today. We are back doing yet more webcomic art. I've been very quiet this week because I've been absolutely sprinting. Sorry for peeking the mic there. Still figuring out this new setup. I've been absolutely sprinting to get all my work done in time for a event this weekend. For those of you who don't know, the Mayhem Con 2020, God, is it 2025? 2025 is happening this year in Lebanon, New Hampshire, which is right next door to me, actually. I'm actually taking the bus over there every day, which I'm super excited about. So, it's a miniature tabletop wargaming convention, and hello everybody, it's me. I've been doing a lot of tabletop mini painting. A lot. It doesn't seem like a lot, but considering these guys were all gray plastic just a few days ago, and I have been steadily building up layers and value, and I have to have all these done by tomorrow. So, most of them are in a state of, I'd say we're about 50% of the way through. Eventually, stuff like this is the level of quality I'm going for the whole army. It's not much, but it's enough. And yes, for the record, for those of you who are curious, these are in fact the same Saurian Starhost that are going to be appearing very shortly in Brothers, which is partly why I'm doing this. I wanted to actually take a little time and work on that faction that's going to be appearing more and more often. It's so weird, this angle of the camera. There we go. So, yeah. In the meantime, I'm still in the process of adding layers, usually by starting with undercoats, like you can see here. I'm trying to get the camera to actually pay attention. There we go. Considering my color scheme is all yellow and brown, the good news is brown is an undercoat for yellow. So we go from the slate gray value to brown base coats and basic values to actual yellow layers. Which, again, it doesn't seem particularly, impressive at the moment, until they eventually catch a wash or two, and suddenly they actually gain serious value. I realize we're at the point now where I actually have a good enough camera setup over here where I might be able to do a painting stream. But, one, I really don't like the giant mess that's over here. I'm still, moving stuff around. So this is not acceptable to me. I want a better setup before I do that. Two, I want a camera where you guys can actually see what's going on down here. This is just fuzzy and blurry. And three, I've been crazy busy this week. So, as I grab the camera and sort of wrangle it. There we go. Alright, so, for those of you who don't know, I actually am in the process of making 2 webcomics, which are, let me just make sure I got this right. I'm going to open this up. Here we go. Beautiful. I have 2 webcomics at the moment, which are Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist, my Helldivers 2 fan comic about opposing fascism and the struggle that it entails, as well as also my brothers, A Tale of Treachery Doom, Grimdark Future webcomic. No, it's not Warhammer 40k. It is Grimdark Future from One Page Rules. And if you're wondering why I'm so emphatic about that, it's because Games Workshop would be. Games Workshop is very litigious, and I'm not a fan of that litigious nature. So, screw them, I don't work with their property. Which is unfortunate, because their property has such good opportunity for storytelling, but they're not the only ones with science fiction settings that deserve some love, and I'm really enjoying working with One Page Rules as of late. So today we're going to do what we've been doing the past couple of weeks, which is working on individual characters within the different webcomics. So I have, for Gentry, Dolaan Ain't No Fascist, the TRA, the Termanid Rights Activist Front, as one of the sub-factions, as well as also, on the other hand, for Brothers, and I'm just going to open up what I've got here. It should be under my data files, lore file. I think that's correct. Or is it under character? Concept sketches. Oh, there we go. It's on the concept sketch pad. Or the Saurians. And yes, I'm aware I'm still on the main screen. So, let's fix that. I'm a little out of camera today. So weird. Everything had to get messed around a little bit the other day since I had my whole back issue. So, really more my butt issue, my tailbone issue. I got myself a nice cushy cushion today, so I shouldn't have issues like that in the future. Which is good. I've been sitting on my butt painting for several hours every day. So, but yes, we have the Saurians, the Saurian Starhost, known as the EDGEOFDUSK, which is one of the adversarial factions within the webcomic, and the other... if I can get this to do it. I don't know why it did that. I'm very annoyed that it did that. Okay, fine. I'll just put the dock there. It's not a big deal. Okay, so anyway, I guess I can just pop between those. Interesting, weird innovations. Sorry about that. OBS has been a little bit difficult since the update. So I've got the TRA and the concepts that I'm working on for the Seraphon, or in this case, I should really say Saurian Starhost, since this isn't Warhammer. Sorry about the brief pop there. That was unfortunate. Alright, so. And I appear to have a smudge on my glasses, somehow. Never in my life have I gotten more smears on my glasses when I haven't touched them. Okay, cool. That should work. So I've been working a little bit on the TRA lately, which is the first faction we're going to do. Today I'm going to keep it relatively short. I think I'm going to try to stick with gestural drawings, and we're roughly going to only go for about, I want to say like 30 minutes per sketch. I'm trying to accelerate myself here, which is actually one of the best ways to learn how to draw. If you're out there and you're curious, like, how can I improve my drawing skills? How can I improve what I'm doing? What'll get you from, like, rough sketches like these all the way up to, like, as an example, the latest Space Marine webcomic, where I can get to, like, drawings like these, where, like, they're fully realized and fully finished. Easy. You get there with practice, and speed is one of the most important parts of practice. So we're going to start here with a couple of our concept sketches. Good, alright. This is concept sketch 1 that we've been working on recently. The Rosetta device. So the Rosetta device is a really important little doohickey, and it's basically what allows the emissary strain and the TRA to work together. For those of you who are curious about the emissary strain, it's actually a subgroup of Terminids I've been sort of working on vaguely in the background. Let me just open up my Gentry refs here, so I have something easy to work off with. Here we go. TRA reference, that's what I need. I can close the Gentry. Close group. There we go. You guys can't see, I've got a whole thing going on the side. Off to my left, I've got this wall of reference images that have been really helpful as of late. Okay. So, I'm gonna be doing a little bit of, like, I want to make sort of an enemy list like we've seen in the various other, like, factions of Helldivers. And if you don't know what I mean, let's describe this very quickly. TRA, front, factional breakdown. So we're going to take the old sketch that I have here. We're going to turn off the loadouts. They're already basically locked away. Oh, that's fine. We can take that. Cool. So we're going to start actually working on how the faction is broken up. So every single faction in Helldivers has, I think a nice way to describe it would be Sketch 2, structure. They have like this structural grid that tends to work off of everything. So like as an example, if we're talking about like the automatons, at the very top of the automaton structure you have like the command intelligences. So grab the right color here. So like as an example for me and my sub-faction, the Vanguard, we are talking about like the coordinator. Who then commands over subordinate commanders, who are the individual Vanguard units. And I'm just doing a really quick doodle of this, because I have other stuff I want to draw today. And each of the Vanguard commanders has their own specific function within the force. And beneath them is where you actually get into like the adversary breakdown. So like the most dangerous strategic asset that they have access to usually is dropships. The big dogs, which we're all familiar with, so factory striders. And I'm just drawing really fast here because we're just doing silly goofiness. And then probably like the individual command forces within them. So like we're probably talking the most dangerous stuff at that point would probably be things like the different brigades. So like, can't remember how their logo works, but this will do fine for now. Like the Fire Brigade. Or the Incineration Corps, I think is what they call it. Or what have you. So, like, these sub-factions within which, or the Jet Brigade, where all of them kind of just fly. Like, all these sub-factions are the most dangerous aspects. Below that, you have Hulks, big boxy boys, which are basically just dreadnoughts. Because again, Warhammer 40k's influence is felt everywhere. So these silly little boxy guys. So yeah. Below that you have Hulks, Berserkers, and Devastators. All of whom have their own subordinate functions. And then below them you have like the basic troops and stuff. So like the actual schmoes per se. And that's where you get into like the most simple sort of forces. Even like the Striders I would classify. Like the little ATSTs that they walk around in. I would classify those as like their basic troops because they're manned by their basic troops. So that's kind of like the very simple breakdown of how the automatons are arranged. At least in the webcomic, and even in the video game of Helldivers 2. You have their commanders, their distant commanders, their more local subordinate commanders, and then you have below that like the escalating tree of violence that they can call upon. Going from the shit that they'll bust out basically on a whim to the other side of it. So I try my best to maintain those structures in the webcomic. It only makes sense to me. So in this case, we have ourselves TRA, who they sort of piggyback off the existing structures of the Termanids. So I figure the TRA, we'll start with like their basic troopers today. Somebody on the ground level. I want simple designs that can work in like resistance forces, that kind of thing. But also sort of scientists a little bit. And I think the Rebel Alliance is the best sort of like aesthetic I can go for. The Rebel Alliance has this very specific kind of like vibe to them in terms of how they're like dressed up. So like as an example, Rogue One has this very like grungy kind of survivalist aesthetic to a lot of their personnel and a lot of their designs. They're not just dressing as like... They're not just dressing as the guys in the fancy costumes. They're basically survivalists. Their equipment is scavenged, and it's piecemeal, and it's not really ugly because there is an aesthetic that ties it together, but it's grunge. And that's kind of what I'm going for here. A very grungy kind of vibe to it. So, we're going to use that today a little bit. Also, you got a peek at my little army list. One Page Rules actually has that. We'll talk more about that later. So, in terms of, like, the enemies we're dealing with, we need, like, basic troops. The TRA are, I think, the only force that would come close to, like, the level of danger they present, in terms of, like, or, like, the closest comparison to their troops, would probably be the Voteless, I think, in terms of the actual Helldiver video game. Because the TRA are all basically, like, press-ganged into service. They're not eager... They're eager to be here, I guess, but they're not particularly, like, well-equipped in that sense. So we're basically looking at civilians running around, fighting on their behalf. So let's doodle ourselves a resistance fighter. Simple resistance fighter. And again, we're sort of doing like a quick pass today. I don't want to be super bogged down with a lot of the specifics. Going for a nice contrapposto pose. Contrapposto being that specific, like you've seen it a million times in all the in like a lot of Greco-Roman art, especially Roman art and Renaissance art, where it's a slightly relaxed off sit, right? There's like standing up straight, and contrapposto kind of a little bit of like a recline, almost like a recline stand. The difference between standing with both your shoulders squared and then relaxing, slowly tilting your body to let weight fall more onto one leg, looking a little bit more over your shoulders so you can rely on your stronger side to hold you up, that kind of thing. So here we go. And this is me going with basically zero reference. Like, at very least, like, zero anatomy reference. We're going for, like, pure speed here today. So usually you have your abdomen, and sort of comes up to your upper body. There's hips. Sort of a little more of a square in there. So I kind of like the idea of them using equipment that would make sense for them. Easily concealed or easily, like, explained away equipment. Anything else that they're using, they're basically having to sneak it around Super Earth territories under the eyes of the Ministry of Truth, the Truth Enforcers, and their various extraordinarily, like, expansive police state. And so these guys have to be able to conceal their equipment or they're really screwed. Also, I'm going to flip a coin here. I'll roll a d20 and see what we're looking at in terms of, I guess we could say, like, gender identity / gender traits. It's a thing I've been trying to do lately that's actually been interesting. Is that because gender is a spectrum, it actually makes it make more sense to me from a drawing standpoint, as opposed to choosing one, the other, which is like the extreme ends of that spectrum. Why not roll a die and see where it falls? How far along certain traits are they? How more androgynous are they? How much more masculinely leaning are they traditionally? What traits do they present? And so I use a d20 as of late, and it's been very helpful to determine where along the sliding scale they fall. So I really randomize it like each time. I just choose one or the other. So I'm going to say guys are 1 and women are 20, and I'm just going to roll that off. Interesting. So we're going to have ourselves a figure that's actually pretty much dead center. That was an 11. So androgynous, leaning more femme, but like slightly femme-coded. So that feels pretty good to me. I'm all about that. I think that's actually pretty helpful. And again, by the way, if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask me in chat. Oh, one final thing, while I got you all here, please don't forget, like, subscribe, and comment below. I'm a tiny channel, I'm still growing, every little bit of help is appreciated. Truly, thank you guys. It means a ton. And of course, now everything. Now my, everybody starts hitting me up via my phone. There we go. Alright. Okay, so let's get ourselves our hands here. I'm going to go for a very simple contrapposto pose. I'm not really in the action business today. At least not here. Yo, Koopa! Good to see you. Welcome aboard. Nice to have you. Hope you're having a good day so far. Just doing a quick sketch before I'm trying my best to blast through a couple of, like, very quick sketches today. I'm still doing a whole bunch of army painting for my event this weekend, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to have at least, like, a little an art stream today. How are you doing? Hope you're having a good one. So we got our rough sketch here. And let's sort of sprint with this. Concept 2. And I'm going to call this character... If these guys are an activist front, I think the proper term for this would probably be militant. I think would be the term they refer to, like, the basic troopers. Militants or partisans. Partisan works. Partisan's interesting. Doing good? Yeah, that's awesome. I'm actually doing alright. I've been very, very busy. Yeah, we'll use the word partisan. I like that. Because they have an opinion. I've been doing okay. A lot of the... I've been getting set up for a local con that's happening in New Hampshire, right across the... like, literally right across the river from me. I can actually, like, take a bus to it. A local bus, which is great. Called Mayhem Con. And so it's a miniature wargaming convention. Super excited. And I have been painting like mad the past couple of days, trying to get a bunch of these little guys done. Let's see if I can get this thing to focus. There we go. So this is still mid-paint job. And I'm down to the last... God, what is it? 11 minis I gotta paint? All these guys have basically been done the past couple of days. So, we're pretty much back. We're pretty much like where we need to be. It's just been slow going as I gently grab the camera and try not to make everyone sick. Beautiful. So, that's been consuming most of my time lately, if I'm being completely honest. It's been good, though. It's been a very good project to have. I've been largely sitting on my tabletop mini, like, hobby for a hot minute. It's good to be back in it. So we're just going to go and hit this area up here with a simple shade so that I can see where the actual, like, frame of the body is. Just a pass. Cool. Cool minifig, thank you. Saurian Starhost, one-page rules. Probably one of my favorite wargaming systems right now. I've also been tinkering around a little bit with Trench Crusade, because actually I really dig the actual mechanics, and like, also, I really appreciate any company that's willing to go and make a skirmish game as opposed to a big army game. So I'm kind of just having fun. I'm still primarily focused on one-page rules, which is why I have my brother's webcomic. But it's a start. It's a start. Alright, so let's get a little bit of a doodle going here. I kind of like the idea of, like... Whoop, there we go. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of, like, a really simple coat. Almost like a tunic or a poncho? Ponchos work. Let's do a poncho. That also lets us silhouette and frame this a little better, too. There we go, so we can sort of pop in here, put the poncho filling out the space behind. Then we can sort of have that come back over here, over the top. Awesome. Also on top of that, I keep forgetting to mention, I have folks ask me questions about my webcomics so I can answer them live on stream. So if anyone has any questions or anything about Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist, or my brother's webcomic, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer them. This is the place I love to do it. It helps me immensely. So I like the idea of, like, a lot of bandoliers and a lot of, like, simple, like, pouches and stuff. Really easy to, like, bootstrap together kind of supplies. It really sort of helps with, like, the improvisational kind of look to them as opposed to the very clean and polished Helldivers who kind of have their shit together, if I'm being sort of honest. Well, at least mildly. Like, I don't want to say they have their shit together, they're fascists. But, like, they have their shit certainly more together than a bunch of guys who are just getting started resisting them. So we'll do that. I kind of like the idea of, I can't remember what they're called, like dust covers, I guess, for boots. I think those are really cool, and I wish I saw them more. So we're kind of just going to have fun with it. Gonna have fingerless gloves, because we can. Because fingerless gloves are cool. Also, it immediately implies a certain kind of, like, aesthetic and level of preparation that works. Here we go. Sort of slap those on. I don't think we have much in the way of head protection, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think that's really a viable thing for these guys. Inventory-wise, it's shit, lol. A bit cool looking. Yeah, exactly. It's literally just like, you know, we're sort of working off of the best we can do at the time, which is probably not that great. Again, I'm going very Rogue One for, like, the aesthetic here. So, like, very simple kind of, like, ponchos and easy to, like, utilize equipment. Something that takes very little effort to make and pays dividends. sort of have this sort of pinch over a little bit. Then that sort of comes from the top. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Alright. We have this. And this sort of coming around. Perfect. Alright, so you got like a very simple bit of a poncho there. I kind of really like the idea of it having a collar. I'm a sucker for collars. I think they always look good on basically everything I draw, so I always make them. Is it a little silly at times? Yes, but you know, it's kind of it's my anime protagonist like aesthetic trope I have to run with. You know, big pant. What is it? It's big pant, big jacked. And I'm like, yeah, big poncho, big collar. That's kind of mine. Also, by the way, again, anyone who's interested in the music, I have the actual links to any and all music that is listened to during the course of the stream in the doobly-doo below, so hit the video description again, subscribe, follow, comment, please. It helps the channel grow. I'm still small. I beg of you, have mercy on a small channel in 2025. Alright, so we're getting pretty far along here in terms of, like, the basics. Okay. I definitely want to give, like, a very simple rain slicker kind of aesthetic to this. Yep, not what I wanted to do. There we go. That's more like it. So we'll give it sort of that brown look. That unfortunate brown you get when you really don't have, like, anything else but, like, base canvas cloth. It's kind of what we're going for here. And there we go. Getting these very simple boots sort of going. Here we are. See, try starting an animation channel, and I don't know what happened. I got exams and stuff, so I stopped. But I still have ideas for a new channel. Hey, heck yeah. It's definitely worth, I think, like, even if it's just for your own personal creative growth, I think it's not a bad idea to ever, like, try to find a way to broadcast and talk about your art. As long as it's not too, what would be the word for it? Disorganizing. So there's this concept in actual political organizing, which I do a fair bit of that on the side. I shouldn't say on the side. I do a fair bit of that generally now. I live in the US, so, you know, you gotta. At least right now in the current state of things. And so, in that, there's this concept called disorganizing behavior. It's not bad. It's just it doesn't serve your purpose. And so, like, yeah, theoretically, you could get a bunch of folks from, like, as an example, you could get a bunch of, like, rich guys sitting around a table trying to help you. But if you're organizing the poor and the dispossessed, like I tend to, that actually doesn't really serve our purpose. Like, what are these guys actually providing us? Money is helpful, but only so much. And it can actually lead to disorganizing, where these guys might try to co-opt us, or... So, like, the same thing kind of applies with your creative endeavors. There's a point where you're like, is this actually in service of my creativity, or is this in service of something else? And so as long as it's something that's in service of your creativity and it's something you actually benefit from, go for it. But if it's not, then no sweat, honestly. YouTube is a graveyard of people who are brilliant and creative and just didn't need to do YouTube. Same thing goes for, like, Twitch. I'm here because I hate Twitch. Honestly. That's why. Because I'm tired of going and doing stuff with Twitch and getting maybe, like, $200 every couple of months. That's not acceptable to me anymore. Plus, also, I'm really tired of losing my work constantly. Twitch loves to delete streams after a period, and that's very infuriating. Here we go. Okay, so we got ourselves a pretty solid aesthetic so far. We got basic shading in place. And I'm just going to add a little extra shading in here to sort of denote that area. That's a little too deep. 25? Yeah, 25 works. Yeah, if you get that off the ground, let me know, Koopa. I'll gladly throw you a sub. Alright. So we got some basics. As far as the rest of the boots go, I think we're actually going to make the boots, like, really dark. Cool. That'll do. So we have ourselves the beginnings of a solid aesthetic here. Take this and sort of beige that out a little more. Make that like a paler kind of white. Because these guys are actually all scientists or researchers or basically they're all CMOS rejects. So as a result, a lot of their gear is basically repurposed CMOS medical equipment. So lots of like Narcan rescue packs and stuff like that. And yes, I do believe that Narcan is still very much in use in Super Earth. Don't tell me the people in Super Earth aren't high as a kite all the time. They definitely have to be. Alright, cool. So we got ourselves the basic pouches there. I kind of want to add more detail to this. So let's add some more detail. Again, we're just sort of going for quick and dirty sketches. So simple highlighting will do fine for now. Just to get us a little bit of details. A little, like, just a tad. There we go. Cool. Alright, so we got ourselves a little bit of a sort of sketchy aesthetic here. Worried if the stims aren't really addicted. Yeah, I'm pretty confident the stims are very addictive. I'm pretty sure the stims are, by design, in fact, addictive. Fun fact, actually, Gentry's Octopodes machine was actually put out of... It's actually put out of business, basically, or not put into service, precisely because stims were too effective. Ironically, how he ended up working on the EXO program. It was just kind of, oh, hey, this is a cool idea you had. Too bad it's not useful, so we're just not going to need it. I want to put a Rosetta device on this person. It's important. It's a very much a part of their identity. So, let's take this. Brighten that a little more. There we go. I just gotta figure out where I want to put the damn thing. Just add 25, thank you. There we go. So again, the Rosetta device is how these folks communicate, or I should say really, like, utilize Terminids in warfare. As well as also, like, baseline communicate with them. I'm kind of going again for, like, a very specific sort of, like, Avatar, researcher, RDA style aesthetic for these guys. So as a result, having a device that lets them communicate very much directly with nature feels very appropriate with them. Like, that's the reason they're running. Is they got a little too good at communicating with Terminids, and Terminids started going, hey, we're willing to work with you, but can you handle some of this? Some of the crazy hoopla we deal with? And they're like, oh, what do you mean? You know, insert mind-blowing nightmare fuel. And we'll just take a little bit of this and add that in. So we got the edge of that. Cool. I definitely want to add, like, a splash on here at some point, just to denote that these guys are, in fact, TRA. Like something that they manually paint on. There we go. A sign of empathy? Yeah, well, I mean, you know, to make the emphasis, Gentry, Dolaan Ain't No Fascist isn't a story about the fascists. It's about the folks caught up in the folks trying to escape fascism, really. There's the folks caught up in it, the folks actively trying to end it. So, you know, it only feels right. I haven't really made a logo for these guys yet, so I feel like the easy solution would be to just go with, like, the simple Terminid logo that they have, and just, like, do a simple painted version of that. Like a really, really primitive version of it. Like something that just someone would be able to quickly whip up with, like, a spray can. There you go. It almost sort of looks like the marker a little bit from Dead Space. So I kind of dig that. There we go. Okay, cool. So now I can get on here, get a couple of patches. Kind of like the idea of this being held in place by, like, a very simple, like, belt system. Yeah, just a very simple buckle and belt system. Sort of hold it in place. There we go. Then we can get in there with a much lighter shade. There we go. But yeah, these guys are not Super Earth. They are as far from Super Earth as possible. Hello, Ahmad. Good to see you. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, that's kind of what we got going on here. So we got ourselves a pretty good, like, vibe on that, I think. Let's put this at, like, 45. I kind of want to give this almost like a... Yeah, here we go. Almost like a textured kind of look. Sort of change it up a little bit. There we go. Sort of give it this beaten up vibe to it. Yes, welcome in, Ahmad. We're just doing a little bit of webcomic art today. I hope you're having a good day so far. Cool. So, we have this, like, basic gear setup. I want to give some, like, weapons, some equipment. This is a partisan, after all. They're not just here to kumbaya, they're here to kick ass and take names. So, we're at that point now where I think we can start adding some actual guns and gear. I'm trying to think if there's, like, a specific piece of equipment that Helldivers are sort of known for throwing away. Wait, I got it. Holy crow, I got it. Okay. So there's like two particular types of weapons that I find all the time when I'm playing Helldivers. I never use them, because they're just not my forte. It's not that they're bad, they're just not my forte. But, okay, one of them is bad. And that's the shotgun. The double-aught shotgun. Super useless for a Helldiver. Not that the shotgun is inherently a bad gun, because honestly, it does have a lot of stopping power. But because Helldivers already carry better versions of that. Significantly better versions of that thing as a primary weapon. So, anyone who has a breaker, or like, I tend to use the pummeler. You know, sorry, not the pummeler. What's the name of that one particular one? There's like one particular one. I always forget the names of the damn shotguns. Punisher, that's right, the Punisher. I use the Plaza Punisher as my primary, because it's basically just a mortar gun. But yeah, like, as a result, it's just really good. Like, the Slugger, the Punisher, the Breaker, there's just better versions of the same thing. The Cookout, God forbid you get the Cookout. Why would you ever pick the double shotgun again? But these folks here, I had to point the other way. I'm still so not used to after years of broadcasting. In order to draw these guys here, they're not going to be using all the super fancy equipment used by Helldivers. They're using the leftovers. So that means these guys are primarily armed with the equipment that you find vibing all over maps that no one ever uses. So they are using the shotguns. Anyone wondering where the shotguns are getting used? This is where the shotguns are getting used. These guys, these poor schmoes. But for them, it actually makes a little more sense. The reason why the shotgun doesn't make much sense for your standard Helldiver is kind of because, again, higher capacity, like more specialized versions of the thing already exist that do their job better. But if you're not a Helldiver and I don't have access to automatic shotguns, yeah, the Breaker's great. You tend to use the Cookout and the Plaza Punisher nowadays almost exclusively for shotguns. They're just so good. Cookout basically burns targets and knocks them back, makes them so good. Oh, also the Charger, I think is what it's called. It's either the Charger or the Blitzer. The electric one. That thing's actually, yeah, it's the Blitzer. The Arc 12 Blitzer has actually been my forte when I'm fighting against the Illuminate. That thing is so good at killing the voteless. Combine that with a jetpack, and you basically don't even need to think. Alright, so we got these guys. So let's take a look at the, like, Helldivers to break action shotgun. There's like one particular one. Yeah. And not the nice one either. Like the one you find lying around. Yeah, the SG-88 break action shotgun. That's the one. This thing. So there we use that. And also, the other one would be the sniper rifle. Yeah, even in bots, the Blitzer is so good. Yeah, honestly, they're all, like, almost all the rapid fire, drum fire, or the slug shotguns are all phenomenal. Honestly, they're all really good. There's only, like, a couple that aren't that great, and it's just because other versions of the shotgun do the same thing better. So it's not that the gun is bad, it's that there's a better version. Which is kind of what we're dealing with here, right? We're dealing with, like, a faction that doesn't have the choice options. So, let's see. Helldiver's sniper rifle. Diligence counter sniper. I believe that's what it was called. The Diligence. No. That's the Diligence is a little different. I think it's the anti-material rifle. Is what it is. Yes. Anti-material rifle. That's the one. Cool. So I'm gonna close this. We have the APW-1 anti-materiel rifle. That's what we're looking for. We're doing the supply stratagems so I can keep track. Going all the way down to the bottom. Standard shotgun. Honestly, now that I think about it, is like the baseline shotgun something you can actually find? Can you call that in, or is that just like a no-go? I think the break action might actually not be a thing. That's weird, but I guess that tracks? Or is it like a basic gun? Oh man, I don't know. This is so weird. I'm so not used to this. Weapons. I'm just going to look at weapons generally. Shotguns. I guess it's just not listed normally. That's so weird! Oh, that's so weird! Huh. I'm over here, like, literally, I'm flipping through, like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's not anywhere! Oh, that's so strange! Okay, here we go. Break action shotgun. It doesn't even have an image listed with it. It's so not a thing. Okay, cool. So I kind of like the idea that they tend to just use these guns as like a baseline. So let's just quickly add this in. Put this on the underside. I need to take a look at how the shotgun actually looks. There we go. Okay, so the shotgun is a pretty standard barrel. There's a pretty standard stock at the end. Sort of this, like, rounded off, slightly tapered shape. The only thing that's weird about it is it's got this very overly rubberized kind of design back there. It's not weird that you have an actual, like, stock that's rubberized. It's weird that the entire thing is rubberized. It's almost like it's made for kids. I guess it is made for kids, isn't it? It's not like Helldivers are very smart. Seif, I always understood, was a little smarter than they were, though, so I'm a little surprised that they cater that much to these guys. I figure they're like, yeah, we're gonna have the double, you know, the break action shotgun actually be a little bit more viable. I guess not. I guess they're like, yeah, sure, we'll put the kid gloves on it. It's fine. Okay, so they got that shotgun. I kind of don't like how big it is. We're just going to get under there and just shrink it a little bit. We're going to save this fast so I don't lose any progress. I'll be very angry if I do. Like a guard dog with scans. Since they are scientists, what if they had a scanning dog? I like the idea of that. That's actually an interesting idea. Also, there we go. That's about right. That's like an actual shotgun made to be carried by a person, not a fucking space marine. So that's where the Rosetta device comes in. The Rosetta device is sort of their, like, means of communicating. Ooh, I like the idea of them using dog drones to use Rosetta devices to lead Termanid charges. I like that. So that's kind of the idea that I'm going with here. I'm very much using, like, the resistance to the, what's it called, to the RDA from Avatar. That's sort of the aesthetic I'm going for. And so that means, like, a lot of super improvised equipment, right? It's kind of the whole shtick here. Also, I'm going to move the watermark just a little bit out of the way. There we go. Cool. Yeah, I don't think that's a stupid idea at all. I think that's an interesting idea. For sure, that's definitely an interesting idea. Poncho and, yeah. Close. I'm going to add one layer above this for the Rosetta device. So you've seen the Rosetta device before. I'm going to pop that open here. This is the Rosetta device. Basically an artificial terminid pheromone communicator, more or less. Like, again, we're not really talking in the traditional sense here. There might be members of the emissary strain that actually can communicate in meaningful, deep ways. I figure they probably, especially at the higher levels, where we're talking like Hive Lords, the Hive Commanders, that kind of thing. Maybe those, like the captains, or I can't remember what they're called. I guess like Captain, Major, I don't know, it's gonna bug me. Terminid, Swarm, Commander. I guess it's Brood Commanders. I guess they're Brood Commanders, probably. But these things allow them to like communicate with the base troopers in the same way that we can communicate with bees and ants using pheromones. It's very simple. Just dump a crap load of pheromones to get them to do the thing. Follow, protect, nurture, attack, basic stuff. So we're just gonna save this fast. So we're gonna actually have them wearing that device. So it almost looks like a watch, kind of. Which is, I'm not going to lie, kind of the point. So let's put that somewhere that's very visible. I want it to be like on their arm. Yeah, let's have it be on their arm. And we'll make like a scan dog for them. I kind of like that idea of like a scan dog. That's a really solid idea. So we had the Rosetta device here, which is basically the TRA front's like special weapon of a sorts. Is their ability to actually communicate and manipulate the Terminids into actually like helping defend them. There you sort of give them little straps. There we go. Thank you, I appreciate that. I think the idea is kind of cool too. Hold on, we're gonna turn the upper layer off so I can actually get a look at the actual Rosetta device. And just sort of, hold on. I'm gonna actually just capture that. And then we're gonna go back to the higher concept. And I'm just gonna pop that over here. Beautiful. So I just have like an immediate design reference. Cool. The funny thing is I'm pretty sure I designed this using the same principles as an old watch I used to have. But hey, if it works, if the design ain't broke, don't revolutionize it. Here we go. You sort of have this little thing here, sort of sticking out. Cool. And we're just going to sort of put this on the other side. Nice. Alright, cool. Now we can swap this over to a brighter color. And we can sort of do the same thing on the side here for that part of the Rosetta device. Same thing here. Cool. Okay, now we're just gonna get in there very quick. I'm just gonna give the little belt strap a little detail. Cool. Now we can actually get into the colors. So I usually go with like a very dark and dim color first. Sort of as our first pass. And this will give us a little bit of illumination. There we go. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Alright, so we got our base coat. Let's brighten this up a little more. We're going to get to like this mid-orange sort of look. Put this about 45. Yeah, we'll put this at 65. 65 gives us plenty of like brightness, but not so much that I can't work around it. Cool. So we got that. We're going to go to a brighter shade of yellow. I've been actually doing a lot of painting in yellow lately, which is very funny to me. I've been classically avoiding that color for a really long time. It's not that yellow's not a very good color. Yellow's a great color. But it runs into a couple of issues with trying to paint it, especially if you're trying to do it by hand. Yellow inks actually aren't very strong. There are some like really potent ones, but for the most part, you run into issues of actually keeping the pigment on the page. And the only like exception to that is cadmium yellow, which is so yellow. It's so very yellow. The problem with cadmium yellow is that it relies on extremely toxic chemicals to manufacture. So cadmium is not a thing you want to fuck around with. And then we can get into the heart of it. It's very bright, kind of almost white glow coming from within. Cool. So there we go. So we got ourselves our Rosetta device there. And I can sort of go back over this a little bit. Because everything, in comparison to how bright the Rosetta device gets, looks like it's, you know, dim. I'm actually going to cover that little bit up there. There we go. Yeah, that sort of helps us keep the shape proper. And we'll do the same thing here. Cool. Awesome. So our TRA partisan here is equipped with whatever weapons they can scavenge, probably off of a lot of Seaf worlds that have been abandoned. So we're talking like, especially the ones that are really overrun with Terminids. I actually see these guys using that as a shelter, which is probably what's saving their lives for the most part, is that these guys can operate in spaces that anyone else would find homicidally or like suicidally dangerous. There we go. So it's like, oh, you're on a Terminid-infested world? Cool. We can ask them for rent. You know, we can actually vibe there. It's not going to be a problem for us. Other factions, not so much. Cool. So we have our Rosetta device. I like the idea of the Rosetta dog. So basically, these guys have interpositioned themselves in between Brood Commanders and Brood Lords, like the massive Swarm Lord. We haven't really seen like the Swarm Lord tyrants that we saw in Helldivers 1. These guys put themselves between there, and that's how they survive. They become basically members of a Brood's higher functions. So let's add ourselves a Rosetta dog, because I kind of want to do a Rosetta dog now. So we're just going to give ourselves the very simple little hovery, like, dog design that they tend to have. Which is very much based off of, like, modern-day drones. There's really not that much to these things. They're very simple in their design. By intention. It's not me knocking the design ethos of Helldivers. I think it actually works perfectly. Okay, so these guys have little hover engines. And I figure they probably have, like, this thing dangling down from them. I kind of like the idea of it almost being like a disco ball, kind of. Yeah, that should work. Let's get on our designs very fast. These guys probably scavenge a lot of the drones that they encounter. Put this as a normal. I think that's probably also where they're getting a lot of their equipment from, is after Helldivers drop on a world, they don't really pick that shit up. They kind of just leave it behind. Usually because whatever worlds they're on are so dangerous, they can't really afford to stay and, like, reclaim them. And I'm sure there's some logistics, like, officers somewhere in Seif just gritting their teeth every day that they're like, oh, cool, we lost another drone. Where did it go? Do you even know? Did you even care? Or did you just call it down and leave it? Did you scuttle it? Did you take it back with you? Like, you know, someone might one day take that. You know, all the officers like, oh no, there he goes again. No one's gonna take that. No one's smart enough to use the tech that you guys make. Meanwhile, a bunch of used-to-be Seif scientists like, oh hey, look, it's another drone. Oh, which one? Oh, that? Cool. We can make that work. Okay, so I like the idea of there being a very disco ball kind of effect to this. So we're going to take these and start working on the higher lighting very quick. Just very simple designs. We don't need to make this, like, insane. Cool. Alright. Do the same thing here. So sort of these triangular vents. Very simple upper parts. Cool. What if the scan dog was named Rosetta Dog and it would just send waves that the Terminids receive and they tend to make them calm down a bit? I kind of like the idea of that. My idea is that these things... So the Rosetta device is really, really interesting. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the TRA so far that we've sort of developed on stream together. Which is the fact that, as it is, the Rosetta device is basically designed to approximate like a queen, more or less, in terms of its ability to communicate. So, as a result, it can kind of make the Terminids do whatever within their normal behavior patterns. So, it's not that the TRA operatives are perfectly safe. It's more like, it kind of gives them, like... I can't remember the name. There's, like, a type of ant or wasp. I think it's a wasp that literally just, like, casually walks around in anthills all the time. Like, they have a natural part of their lifespan which is literally just grow up in an anthill. Take their resources. Like, and because they smell like a friend, most ants don't bother them. And that's kind of what they do here. But they can also use those things in the same way, so they can basically kick these Terminids up into a frenzy. And so that's my thought, is like, they've literally weaponized the Terminids in a way Super Earth, I'm sure, would hate. And that was never really their purpose, But they're like, hey, if it's either weaponize the Terminids or watch them all be slaughtered again and again and again, we'll choose weaponizing the Terminids. Because it's definitely dangerous to them, too. If their Rosetta devices ever fail, they die. And by die, I mean they're murdered horribly. I don't think there's many of the TRA that have worked with the Terminids long enough to really have developed a personal relationship with them that transcends the need for the Rosetta device. I suspect maybe there might be like one or two, but they are rare birds. So I figure the idea is the Rosetta dog can sort of give like one of three simple pheromone commands, which is sort of a pacification effect, like you were talking about, an enrage effect to kick them into a defensive form, into like a defensive, highly aggressive, frenzied stance, like kicking the bee's hive kind of sort of energy. And then the other one would be like a follow command. So, for those of you who don't know, whenever you see ants walking in a line on the ground, it's because actually, every time ants explore, they leave pheromone trails, and every time another ant goes over that pheromone trail, it reinforces it with its own. So what they're really doing is, it's almost like the ants are following the strongest smell. And so you naturally create these highways of ants just following the exact same pattern. Which is why if you ever take, like, alcohol, like isopropyl alcohol, and you wipe away that path that the ants are on, the ants, when they reach the alcohol, just get really confused. Because it's all sort of gone. They're like, well, what the hell happened? And so that's sort of the idea that I'm running with here. So to give the dog a little set of eyes. Simple little dog eyes. Nothing too fancy. We're going to get in there. Get that very bright. Get that into basics. Cool. So yeah, basically this thing simulates the effect of a Termanid pheromone sac, allowing them to sort of hijack the basic operations of the hive. It's not a perfect solution, but it's pretty reliable. As long as the actual Rosetta device doesn't fail, they're good. And so I figure they use the Rosetta dogs to sort of command them at a distance where it's safer. Because again, if Super Earth ever finds out about these guys, they're in for a world of hurt. And by if they ever find out about these guys, they know they exist. It's just a matter of if they ever get their hands on them, right? You know, me, when I get my hands on you meme. Insert here. And I think, as I recall, like, the gun dog is very specific in, like, how it hovers. Suppose this is support. Yeah, this would be a stratagem. Guard dogs. Here we go. Guard dog. And how does it hover? How does the hovery thing do? Okay, so it's a little blue glow. It's a little blue glow. And they have little metal, like... They actually have metal nozzles down here, which that's interesting. We might just end up spending the whole time on this project, because I'm okay with that. I've been drawing my Saurians all day, or like painting my Saurians all day. So I'm okay with, like, taking a little bit of a break from them. Especially since next week, Gentry, Dolaan Ain't No Fascist is returning to proper public circulation. I've actually been working on it in the meantime. I just haven't been, like, really making it very public. And that's because I've actually been doing a Patreon lately. And so, right now, my Patreon supporters, they actually get access to my webcomics about 2 weeks in advance. So, right now, those guys have been sitting on the last Gentry, Dolaan Ain't No Fascist webcomic for the better part of 2 weeks. There we go. And we're just going to sort of give this little bit here. So these things are really simple. Literally just made by the scientists or repurposed by the scientists after they find abandoned guard dogs. Probably off of dead Helldivers. Which I don't think they're very excited to kill, by the way. I don't think any of them are really happy to be doing this. They'd much rather be doing, like, actual research. But, you know, survival, right? I might make that a little bigger. How big is the guard dog? It's pretty big. It's about as big as a person. So yeah, we'll say it's a backpack. Cool. The exhaust is blurry. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's also got like that very blue kind of like super jet engine. That was not what I meant to do. Nope, not my intention. Rosetta dog. Shepherd dog. Oh, I love that. Shepherd dog. Because it's a shepherd dog. It's shepherding. It's literally herding the Termanids. Okay, I can dig that. I can dig that. Okay, so it's got this like slightly off, like indigo sort of blue that we got going on here. Alright, I'm going to put this at 45. So it starts off this like slightly kind of purpley exhaust. And just so folks can see where the fourth like leg is, it's back here. Now we can sort of get this into more of a blue shift. There we go. So these things are having been made and repurposed by enterprising individuals. We're kind of in this interesting like position where they sort of have to improvise a lot of the equipment, which is why they're sort of a little bit off. The actual dogs are like very flat platforms. They're basically a square. But these things are literally improvised to dodge around a little more. I figure in part because they don't want to piss off the Termanids. Like have this thing accidentally bump into a Termanid. That wouldn't be a good day. And then I just sort of take this. We're going to use a blur tool very fast. I'm going to save this. There we go. And I can just sort of take the smudge tool a little bit. And sort of pull the center out. There we go. Cool. So we got ourselves a pretty solid, like, TRA getup for, like, a standard militant arrangement here. Okay, that we're going to put under the first sketch. Now we're going to copy this, duplicate it, move this to under here. Not what I wanted to do. Thank you. Save this. Cool. Alright, so let's take this. So. TRA partisans. Let's see. And we're going to give that its own, like, larger... We can bold that out a little more. I think we'll make that, like, a size 13. Yeah, that works. Cool. Yeah, that'll do. And we'll give it the appropriate color. Beautiful. So, TRA partisans operate across the many worlds of Super Earth. Actually, across Super Earth's many frontier worlds. Often hiding on worlds overrun with the Termanids. Worlds seemingly overrun with Termanids. I'm gonna actually shrink this a little bit. I don't like how much space this has. So it's just this, right? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna take this and just sort of squeeze that in a bit. Cool. Give myself a little more space to work with. Here we go. Often hiding. Let's see. I'm not going to say operate. TRA partisans, yeah, I guess operate. It's hard to say. I'm trying to figure out the words, the verbiage for this, you know, so that I can reference this later. Let's see. Yeah, across as many frontier worlds. Prosecuted for their work. Prosecuted for their work with the Termanid emissary strain. They seek shelter. The world seemingly overrun with Termanids, providing a natural air defense. Equipped largely with whatever weapons they can find, or they can whatever technology they can scavenge. Limited in resources. Let's start with that. Limited in resources. They scavenge what tech they can find. Let's just take that and expand that downside some space. Cool. Scavenge what tech they can find. Both for survival and the continuation of their vital research. Cool. So you can take this. Let's see. survive, let's see, to move freely, let's see, using their Rosetta device, using their Rosetta devices to take cover in the swarm structures, to cover and build encampments hidden within the swarm structures themselves. In a resource they scavenge a type they can find both for survival and the continuation of their vital research. For their defense, let's see. Let's talk about their defense in a separate thing. So we'll take Rosetta device here, copy that. Using their unique Rosetta devices to take cover and build encampments hidden within the swarm structures themselves. In the very swarm structures, the emissary strain builds. Cool. Alright, so we got all this. We can just copy this, slap this on a lower level. We're actually just going to delete this a couple times. We're just going to duplicate this. And this bottom layer here is going to be that. Go down a bit. And we're actually just going to reduce the pattern here. Cool. And then down here we can actually just do it as black. So let's see how this looks. Save. Cool. Awesome. That'll do. And then we slightly increase the opacity of that. 75. Nice. That gives us some strong contrast there. And I can sort of take this into sort of... Actually, we're just going to erase this part here. We're just going to do it fresh. Cool. Save. Hit this with a splash. Got a couple of good splotch and splatter sprays, so let's use that, eh? And I can actually reduce some of this a little bit, too. Cool. We can take this, shrink it a little more, shrink it a little more, shrink it a little more in. And I'm going to sort of take an eraser around the edges, 25%. So it lets us keep the cool splattering effect without impinging on all the other work we're doing here. Cool. That'll do. Reduce the opacity of that a little further. Nice. So that gives us a pretty cool aesthetic. I guess shriekers would be a problem for the dog. Yeah, that's the big issue, right? Like, they would need to hang out nearby. The good thing is, shriekers, I would presume, would probably be something that they could They could probably largely avoid that by maintaining, like, their presence. In fairness, Shriekers are docile till they're disturbed, right? Until a swarm is in certain proximity to a Shrieker nest activated, the Shriekers don't deploy. So if the swarm is comfortable and confident, they probably would be fine. Something tells me that the TRA from the TRA, TRAF? I guess it'd be the TRAF, wouldn't it? So I keep saying TRA, it'd be TRAF. TRAF. I suppose TRAF partisans would probably have a, they'd probably have, like, Rosetta, they have shepherd dogs hanging out by Shrieker nests to make sure that doesn't happen till they're ready, right? To make sure that, hey, we're not going to get bombarded by these guys until it's time, until we have a means of, like, being in somewhere with shelter, right? That'd be my first concern. Just, like, take shelter. Because they're basically their air cover, which they would need. They would need for the sheer number of Eagle strikes and Pelican deployments and stuff. So yeah. I think it's a matter of, like, they take cover from them, much in the same way that if you're bombarding a position, you would evacuate. So they were just going to have those dogs vibing with the sleep chemicals, and they would have roused them to defense. And I figure so long as the TRA operatives have the Rosetta device on them, they smell like Termanid, they have all the right pheromone cocktails on them, they'd be fine. They should be fine for the most part. So let's take this, and let's just copy this group here. TRA Partisan. And we're going to change the font here for a second. TRAF. And we're just going to go one by one through these. Cool. Awesome. I think I'll go with TRAF. It sounds like something that a bunch of scientists would put together and not realize it sounds bad. Cool. That works. This will be the general overview. Let's do a little bit more detail work. I actually have a loadout section that I made for Gentry a long time ago. And this will come in handy here. I can actually take this, put this down under here. I can get into the section here and sort of stretch that out. Beautiful. Nice. Perks of having old formatting, right? Like, it lets you sort of play around with it a little bit. So we're just going to sort of take this, grab it, reposition that color till it suits our needs. I want it to be Termanid orange. Actually, that'll do. Yeah, that's perfect. We'll duplicate that. I'm going to save this fast because moving stuff around actually causes havoc. Perfect. Aha! Beautiful! Alright, cool. Can remove that. So let's take this, turn this into the same font used above. With this Adamoran Pro. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Weaponry and equipment. Oh, let's see. Weaponry used by TRAF tends to be scavenged Seif weapons. One of the perks of operating on worlds abandoned to the swarm is that there is plenty of salvage. Cool. We're not going to underline that. We're going to shrink that a little bit more, bring that to like a size 8. That'll do. That'll do nicely. Cool. So let's grab ourselves the designs, the actual images that I'm going to be using. So we're going to be using the break action shotgun. I'm going to copy that image. Slap that down right there. It's a big one. And we're just going to slap it right there where the bushwhacker is. Just to make sure I got that right. That is the SG. Because shotgun. 88's break action. Cool. That'll do. As far as the grenades go, I figure they probably use pheromone grenades. They don't want to hurt the swarm, and almost all grenades used by Seif personnel are super dangerous to the swarm. Frag grenades, explosive impact grenades, thermite, gas, all of it. It all kills bugs super easy. So I figure they probably have they've taken gas grenades, redesigned them, and stuffed them full of pheromones to make the swarm go into a frenzy to try to capture them. I figure it's almost kind of like a pocket wiggler. If you're familiar with like the little guys that you have to grab as the objective, they kind of just freak out. So I think that'll do. Yeah, I appreciate you, Koopa. Thank you so much. Really, I do appreciate you. We'll be doing this every single week, same time, same place, starting on Thursdays around 1:30 p.m. EST, and going through till roughly about now, actually. This is about when I was going to end it. So, I'll keep dropping those alerts. You can check it out in the promo section on Red's Discord. Also, I have my own Discord, and I have my own Patreon. So if you're interested in following me there, I highly advise it. That is where I get I drop a lot of my news from. I drop this right here in the chat. You don't even need to support me on it. Even as a free follower, you're going to get weekly updates from me about what I'm up to, what I'm working on that week, what streams are going to be dropping that week, as well as also a bunch of free lore and access to all my webcomics. And, for supporters, they get a couple of extra perks. Speaking of, since we're getting to the end of our stream, and I appreciate everyone who liked, followed, or subscribed, and commented today. Really appreciate you. In addition to that, I need to give a little quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. I currently have a total of 4 Patreon supporters that are all awesome, and anyone who's at tier 2 or higher gets a personal shout out by name. So, to my incredible trusted comrade of Necronomulus, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate you. And to anyone else who wants to support me, please feel free to go to patreon.com/TheLastOmnitech, all one word. Even if it's just the mysterious traveler tier, which is just the $6 tier, every penny helps. It truly does. And I appreciate everyone out there who's been supporting me on YouTube, sharing my posts on Blue Sky and liking them, as well as also just engaging with me generally. You guys are great. Thank you all so much. One final quick look at what we've managed to make today. As I pop all the way over here. Here we go. And I'm kind of happy with what we managed. We got ourselves a good start for an adversarial faction. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. And I'll see you out there, Voyagers. Peace.